Okay. Let's see. Oh, whoops. Hold on. Am I here? I appear to be here. All right. Happy Monday. Monday. I've got some tea today for the working man. It's supposed to be kind of warmish, but rainy. Turns out it's just rainy. Just rainy. But we're dealing with it. We're dealing with it. I keep feeling like I'm hearing the temperatures, and then the actual temperature does not seem to correspond to my expectations from the temperatures that I'm getting. All right. You may be wondering what the heck you're looking at here. So here I have got a this red outline corresponds to my basic region map, which you may or may not recall. I set this up essentially so that I could roll 2d6 to get coordinates inside it. So one thing I found, I guess just to preface this, is people love these hex flowers, right? Oh, look, it's a lovely hex flower. It's a bigger hex flower. But how do you roll to get random, or what's an easy way to get a random location inside the hex flower? There probably are some there. But what I just like is something simple. And I think being able to roll d6s, you could use some other die if you wanted to, but I'm using d6s, and just say, and get some coordinates. Basically, if you have a grid, so I have 6 columns of 6 columns, 6 rows. So if I roll 16, go look 1, come over here to 6. There we go. Easy peasy. Hex flowers, it's tricky, at least for me, because they're all odd numbers. So a hex flower like this, sure, if I don't include the middle hex, I got a nice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But if I want to include the middle hex, now I need 7. And so how do I arrive at that? If I want an equal chance in all the hexes, I think the hex flowers work great if you're starting out in the center hex and then you're looking at, oh, which way am I moving out? That's great. You have exactly 6 choices here. But when I want any kind of thing, I end up with 7. And there probably are some workarounds, some different ways of mitigating that particular problem. But I just thought, what, if I just go to kind of a square, even though it's not as attractive visually as the flowers are, then I just get a nice whatever die size I want to use. And I could use 2d6s for each one. I could use d12s, d20s, d8s, whatever. And I can just d4s if I want something small. And it just seems to be like, wow, this is just kind of easy. So I went with that. Now, and that's what the red, because I have actually made a much bigger map than I need. I don't know why. I just use my defaults. One thing with Worldographer I don't love is there's not an easy way I have found to get back to your defaults. At least it's not an obvious one. So if you change your hex, the sizes of your hexes, and then you want to generate a map back with the original ones, you got to remember what they are, or you have to figure them out again, or something like that. So I thought, you know what, I'll use my default kind of map, and I'll just throw blank hexes on there so they don't really take up anything, and then I'll just make a spot in the middle. Or I guess not really the middle, over here. So here's this red outline, that's kind of my region map. Inside of here, you'll see we've got a circle, a white hex with a circle in the center, and then a yellow outline and a yellow, I guess, radius, yellow area around it, and then a red area. And these correspond to these magnitudes, which I guess let me make some. I brought this here to use. So we've got, I'm calling them communities. All right, so we have community magnitudes. Inside those community magnitudes, we've got 3 minor, and that is your white area. Right? So it has basically, it doesn't extend outward. So we're looking at, which I changed the name from spread to gravity, because depending on what kind of community it is, and I have 3 generic types. One is what I'm calling what am I calling it? So sorry, I call them habitations. So overall, we have habitations. Inside the habitations, one type is a community. A community, those are your settlements. Another type is, I call it, I don't know, I'm trying to go for alliteration, so I call it a covert. That would be like a hideout, a lair, or something like that. It's kind of hidden, secret spot. And then colonies for animals. The CCC, right? So you have colonies, communities, and coverts. So in this case, we're talking about communities. each one of those is kind of going to work a little bit differently. And community is definitely the one that's the hardest, or it has the most intricacies involved. So the idea here is that within, and I should call this habitation spread, because it's these magnitudes, or I should say habitation magnitudes. These apply to all the different ones. So minor, and the magnitude is kind of, I wanted something that reflects kind of a power level, but it doesn't have to be necessarily in population. So, a red dragon's habitation would be greater because it's powerful, right? Or if you just have a little village of kind of normal types, that would probably be minor. But it could be you can have a whole pyramid of different critters in there, but that magnitude is kind of that power level, right? How powerful is this habitation? So we have 3. We have minor, which is kind of, obviously we have what am I saying? Minor is minor. I'll just probably let's do this. So we have can make some bullets. We have minor. That way, lesser, and then greater. Those are our kind of the magnitudes. Now we use these magnitudes for multiple things. Setting up kind of like the highest hit die critter. So when we're building up a community and we look at who the leader is, the highest hit die or level value that the leader could have is going to depend on on this magnitude. So minor magnitude or normal types, I think to 4. I think lesser types are 4 to 8, and greater I think is 8 or more, something like that. So there's a little bit of overlap, but that's what you kind of get with that. So I'm trying to use it in different ways. And then the other part of this is this gravity, which is what we're looking at, this kind of gravitational, if we want to look at sort of a gravitational map here. So I'll just make another one of these. So we've got habitation gravity, which is kind of asking the question, how far does the habitation influence? And then we go back to these, and then we basically, this question, how far or how, I don't know, wide is the habitation's influence? And influence, I'm meaning here, I really mean, it could be anything you like, but I'm talking mostly here in kind of physical stuff, physical influence. And we're using these same magnitude numbers. So in minor hex, just within the hex only, lesser 1 hex radius, greater 2 hex radius. So we get like that. Oops, I can zoom in there a little bit. So I'm just going to bold this stuff just to make it a little bit easier. I feel like the bold, maybe it's just this font. The bold does not really stand out very well, unfortunately. I feel like I think I can barely tell between something that's bold and not bold. But I don't know a good way to change the font. So it is what it is. Okay, so how powerful is habitation? Minor, lesser, greater. That will determine how far it goes. So here we have the map. So minor, right, just within that within the hex. Yellow, this would be lesser. This is greater. And I just wanted to put kind of in terms of a region. So greater is going to impact a lot of the region. But you could still have, I think in that Steading of the Hill Giant example from the other day, you can still have, multiple of these things, and where those radii overlap is where you can look at and say these are borderlands or conflict zones, or these are where these different populations of habitations, different creatures are going to be really bumping into each other, which is where you can have all your nice conflicts come in. Seeds for adventures, if you will. But now I do want some rules. And one thing is, I think is part of it is like, hey, this easy way is just keep it that, right? Okay, you have these rings and you can go. And I probably will, there's always that option as a GM just to ignore all this stuff. But hey, Ian, Gotta love a good conflict. Indeed. But then looking at, okay, well, how would this work? So my thinking is that this is you so I guess there's a couple of things, right? So you might have all this area to expand into. Okay. However, you not all this, they we're looking at blank terrain. There's no terrain here. But I want to take into account terrain because terrain is going to truncate and sort of and is going to sort of truncate and sort of twist these radii, these I guess influence on these gravity zones, right? Let me see if let me just roll. Let's roll some terrain real quick and throw it in there, and then we can kind of get. Whoa, I got a lot of stuff going on here. Where is? Here we go. So I'll just whoops. I will just move this aside. Now, okay, so I'm going to try to do this in a way. Yeah, I'm going to have to lose my. I'll have to remember the shading because I'm going to lose it as soon as I fill this up with terrain. So I'm just going to fill this up with terrain, regular terrain. So I'll get rid of the override. Or you know what? Could I override it with nothing so that way I keep my. I don't think I can tell it to not. Don't give me any background. I don't think I can tell it no background, unfortunately. I'll configure. Oh, cancel. All right, yeah, I think we're just going to have to lose. We're just going to have to lose the. We're going to have to lose the colors. So keep in mind the colors. So let's just roll some terrain real quick. And I'll just assume we're in, woodlands, I guess. 5 and 2. Let's see. So I got 5 wooded hills in that kind of shape. So we'll go grab some wooded hills and where shall we? Well, first let's find the wooded hills. No, not that way. No, not that way there. Hold on. First of all, I don't need all terrain. I just need the classic. Give me the classic. All right, where are wooded hills? You are. Here we go. Let's make it fun. Oh, it did keep the color in. Excellent. Cool. Oh wait, did I have the override on still? I did. Sorry. Yep. All right. And we're gonna roll it again. 4 and 3. 4 is woodlands, and that 3 is that shape. So we'll take woodlands, and we'll do that. 2 and 6. What's 2? 2 is grasslands, and 6 is one of those curves. 1, 2. Yeah, we'll do right there. So I'll make that clear, kind of like that for that grassland, and then we can let's see. It's kind of just a curve, right? So we can do like that, and then 4 and 4. 4 is that long kind of string, and I think that's woods again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see, 1 and 5. Wetlands, and 5 is a river. So and I'm going to overlay the river. I think, well, let's see. No, how can I do? Because I'm going to definitely, I feel like that's, or I could do 1, 2. Oh, yeah, that'll work. 1, 2. Yep. All right. So I'm just going to put blue in here. We'll come back and we're going to have to fix the river later. But for right now, we're just going to do, or hold on a minute. How can I do this? Oh, I can do it this way. 1, 2. that. 1 and 4. Oh, I got another one. 4. So, yep. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll probably have to fill that in with something as at the end. Oh wow, I keep getting 1. 1 and 2. So this can be, so I got to roll for this one because this can be a swamp, a lake, or a river. And it's a swamp. So that actually fills it out nicely, just luckily, duckily. Do that 1, 2. And then we get 6 and 4. What's 6 is some barrens, and 4 is another thing like that. I don't really have one. 1, 2, 3. Well, I will put, where can I put the barrens? Bring me that floating fat man, the baron. Well, put it here. Maybe there's some maybe there's some kind of elevated area there. Do that. And in fact, that river can flow. Maybe it flows through the barrens. Whoops. Ooh, 2 and 2. That's grasslands, right? And we got that kind of shape. So that's fine. We can throw grasslands, call it here. We got a 1 shape. And I got a 1, so wetlands. So it's either a swamp or a lake. And it's a lake. Maybe I'll use a different color so I can tell it's a lake. There we go. And we got, let's see, we got a couple of different things we can find. So 5 and 5. 5 and 5. 5 and 5. I think that's Wooded Hills. So I'll just do Wooded Hills twice. And we've got a couple of shapes here. Do we have any shapes that would fit entirely? I could do that curve shape maybe. 1, 2. No, the curve doesn't quite fit. But I can do a 2. I don't know. I'll figure it out. We got Wooded Hills. So we'll just do like that. And then we have another set of Wooded Hills. And then we'll roll for one other thing. Gosh, Wooded Hills. All right. That made it easy. Okay, so we have this. Now we just got to figure out our lakes, or sorry, our water courses. So I'm going to go to leave terrain. We're going to go shapes, line, snap. I've got snapping already. River. And we got to, because they make them huge. Make them like that. And we're going to do something like this. That's the same color. Do here. Something like that. And then that will become more clear when I go underneath and then remove that terrain. So we'll I think what I'll do for the hills, we're just gonna split the difference, put hills in here. Probably just put woods over here. Maybe we'll just turn this, we'll put that in the farmland. We'll put this one back into woods. We'll put this one into, I guess, grassland. Like that. So there's our overall. So this is our imaginary place. So we normally we'd be doing this, and then I would roll to see where our settlement was. In this case, I rolled ahead of time. But so we have this kind of little area. We have this little interesting area here. So now I need to look at, okay, if this were I can close this now. Move. Yeah, I don't know I can need all this, I don't think. if this were a greater habitation, then it could spread out 2 hexes. It could spread out. We're going to go, I guess, should I make another border? So if I make another, yeah, I'll make another thing. We'll call it a border. We're going to reduce this down to 5. We will give it a color. I don't know. What do we call? We give it something maybe yellow, and then, but we don't want it to be. So we'll give it 50% opacity. So if we could spread everywhere, we'd have a spread of something like this, right? See if I can do this without goofing it up too much. Oh no, I did goof it up. Let's try this again. We gotta start from here. See if I can do this. I wish undo worked a little bit better. It just is a little bit kooky sometimes for reasons I don't entirely understand. Here is our okay. Okay, so that is our kind of our spread area. So my thought is that we got a couple of things here. So I want to make up some kind of little bit of generic rules. I think I can lower the opacity of this down a bit. Yeah, so we got, I want to try to set up some rules. So one thing you could say, well, this habitation, this community is just going to spread out, right? This is this kind of outer border here, or this kind of yellow brown border. It's about how far it can go, but we're gonna look at. So I'm trying to think of some basic rules because I want to give some. Just want to give some, I don't know, guidance, the right word. I guess guidance, a little bit of procedures for figuring out, well, how do they spread? So one thing I was thinking about is, okay, if you have a hub that basically this, I guess first of all, the habitation that you're creating, that you're sticking out here, it's what we call I guess I'm thinking of, maybe there's a better word, but it's a hub habitation, right? So we'll call it habitation dynamic, or I guess this one we're talking about community dynamics. The initial communities placed on the maps are, these are hub communities. So things will spread. This gravity is this relationship is your hub, and then things are spreading out. Things are spreading out from there, if that makes sense. So we got this here, and I wish I could do. There's not really a way to do annotations on here, unfortunately. So if this were a minor hub, it wouldn't spread. It's inside the hex. If it was a lesser community, then it's going to spread out more, but we're talking about a greater one. But it's not going to. So I guess part of the thing with the rules is it's not going to spread out equally. Like it's not going to tend to spread out into this Badlands here. I mean, there's a few factors, right? One is just, well, it's a Badlands. It's not good ground anyway. But it might depend on the people. However, but looking at it is like, okay, one, I want to look at, well, what is the hub? So in our case, our hub is basically grassland, that's cleared land. So this is kind of like, I'm trying to look, maybe that's even a better word. They form a hub. Yeah, maybe origin's better. It's an origin habitation. So we're assuming, in case we're kind of doing, it's a little bit of almost like it's world building in a sense of we're kind of making the statement that this one we made here, this is kind of where these people came from, more or less, right? As far as maybe they didn't spring out of the earth and they've been there since time began, though maybe they did. But in terms of their differentiation from other human or other, settlements by the same species, whatever, this is kind of where they're at. So they are, that's kind of where, if they were from the borderlands, not receiving enough video data. If they were from the borderlands, well, hopefully I'm all right. Says my stream health. If I'm from the borderlands, that would be that one, right? So so I guess the kind of general rules. We're going to look at some general rules. So gravity rules. So we're going to say that communities spread into areas less scarce with lower or equal to scarcity. Lower or equal, my goodness, to their origin. Okay. So here we're saying that they're going to spread out in things that match their origin. In this case, they're from this kind of grasslands. So that's where they're going to spread. They're going to kind of spread. I mean, if you look at how that is already shrunken down, they're large, right? We had this pretty large area here, and now it's shrunken it down all the way to this. So that is already kind of eliminated a large part of their spread. In effect, what we're doing is we're creating sort of hard-ish barriers. They don't really go. They don't go past these woods, and of course nibbling on the edges. But they're basically staying contained here. But they're going to spread. They're going to spread through this way here, right? Okay. They're going to spread into those. So they're going to come. So I think if I were to, so we're going to delete this. Whoops, I guess, and then delete it. And we're going to make a new one. And this new one will be now this new spread, which is going to be easier for me to map. So we're going to click this out, click. But it's going to get a little bit more interesting, which hopefully I'll be able to. And the reason why I'm kind of walking through this is because I need to try to write it out and explain it in a way that hopefully makes sense. So I find talking these things out tends to help me with that. I mean, I wish maybe there's a different color. Can I use blue? I don't think that seems to be changing the color at all. Okay. Does blue make it a little better? Nah, blue doesn't. Red? Yeah, that just looks brown. What's a good... Oh, that's hard to... black, kind of not really black, but maybe like that. I don't know. Okay. It's not that big of a deal. I'm just trying to make it clear. So now we have these new extents. So that's kind of where it's going to expand to. So now my feeling was, okay, you can this now becomes the kind of maximum area that it's going to spread into. Now, this also means that if you happen to roll one that's in the hills, they're going to be better. It's easier for the hill people, and that's just a choice I'm making, to spread down into these areas because they're easier, they're less rugged than it is for plains people to spread up into the hills. Um, that's just a choice I'm making. Just it's a decision. You could obviously change these up, whatever, but I wanted some way to kind of take these large, kind of generic areas and shrink them to different shapes. So we get this area. Now, in terms of habitations, right? If you're within no, not habitation is not what I mean. So when we look at this, we say, all right, this has got a habitation in it. This area and this area are within kind of its range. So you don't have to have, you could, but you don't have to have other habitations here. These are close enough. This is, I think, in my kind of system, this is maybe 1.5 hour walk, more or less, if you're in this hex to get the. Remember, my hex is only 3 miles. So this is maybe about 3 miles away. So a couple of hours if you're sort of laden, but this is pretty fairly within their reach. You could have a good road. You might even reduce it down, kind of thing, right? So you don't have to have multiple settlements in here. One thing you could do is just say, okay, this is all, let's go back to some features. We can say this is all now just going to be farmland. Like we can just do that. That's one thing. Like, yeah, that just fills it all in. And I guess you could posit maybe that you could, coming around here, this is still within kind of range of it. But we can talk about like a hub and spoke. And this is where I'm finding I'm running into having trouble trying to explain it, because you can if you're a minor settlement, that's kind of it. You can create sort of I guess a lesser or greater community can form. What's the word I'm looking for? They can form sort of, I don't know, what are we looking for? Subservient. That's not what we're looking for. I guess child. I'm just gonna use child for right now. For child settlements of one rank child settlements of one rank below their magnitude, i.e., a lesser settlement can form a minor settlement. And I'm saying settlement here when I mean community. Lesser community can form a minor, maybe sub-community, and a greater can form a lesser sub-community. All right. So A lesser or greater community can form child settlements of one rank below their magnitude. So this is a greater community. It can form a lesser community somewhere. Maybe this is not even, I don't even know if this is the right symbol I should be using. What's a better symbol? I just want to use the really simple thing. So I was just going to I'll use the circle squares just to indicate that that is a biggest. I don't think I actually needed to do that, so we'll do that. So okay, so we got that. So there's our bigger settlement. And okay, so now you could, depending on the terrain. So this, because it's clear and grassland terrain, it's pretty easy to get around. Like I said, I think I'm doing in my game, which is in the rules that I tend to use, which is what I'm kind of basing this off of. You can move, it's basically four watches during the day, right, of 3 hours each, and you can move 2 for every 3 hours. So you can kind of move like 1, 2, right, 3. Like you can get all the way from here to here without you don't need to it's that's probably within, but we probably want half a day. So really we're probably thinking like this is now at the edge. Right. So 1, 2, 3. Well, even then, I don't know. What was I saying? 2 over 3 hours? Yeah, because basically 6 miles in 3 hours over, assuming it's over grasslands. So yeah, that's kind of 1, 3 hours, and then you're talking, if you want to cut it in half, basically 2, 6 hours. So that's really at the limit. But if you were going to go through the hills or something like this, if you were going to go up in the hills, then that distance, as it would get smaller, would shrink in what you could do. But let's just say that this is maybe at the edge. And because we're a greater settlement, we can create a sub-settlement here. So we can start here, put a sub-settlement. We can do that. Okay. So now and then we're just assuming, but we could, if we wanted to make it absolutely clear, we could put on a line, we could go to a road, and make them so darn thick. And we can do something like that. Or maybe even hold on a minute. Maybe something like this is better. Whatever. Something like that. So we go down and, and maybe there, who knows? We haven't built out the rest of this world. So we don't know, is there something else here? Is there some road that creeps through here and cuts across the river, fording it? I don't know. At this point, this is all we've got for this particular region. So we know that, okay, we've got this sub-settlement here. Now we could just end here, right? That this is enough. But now what I thought about, and I'm not sure if I'm going to go with it or not, because it does add some complexity. I thought about, well, if you're near to these, we're here on this lake, we're by a river. That to me means that we could possibly say that this, oops, oh, I'm in the wrong thing. That this could potentially upgrade into another major because it's on these things. And this means, well, it means a couple things. One, now when we're looking at extents, okay, we got this minor here. Okay, it's near a river, so that bumps it up. Because I'm trying to think about, well, how prosperous is the area? Rivers and lakes and coasts, they tend to be pretty prosperous, so you're going to tend to get that little bump up. So okay, so now you've actually bumped up, and now even if we didn't do before, now you've got this area, which means that you could these grasslands maybe also turn into settled area. I'm just converting these, right? So now you went, let's see, right? This one, this one, this one, two, like that. Right? And now, you might say, okay, well, at the edge of here, I wonder if you know what I think. I think I'm probably gonna have to. I don't know because here's the thing. Here's where you can get into. I guess we'll just see. Well, let's just play it out. So if we keep going the way we're going, now we have this over here. Okay, and this now opens up another one. So I can go here, or I could go really here. Is kind of the thing we'd say. Okay, we're at this edge, but there's still more. There's more thing here we can't get to, right? So I've got a minor settlement I can do. I could put it here. But I think you could argue that, well, if I follow these same rules, you're on a river. So then you actually get bumped up. And then you become one of these, in which case you then turn this into, right, 1, 2. And then on our road, and maybe it goes, and maybe we put it the extent, right? There's, I don't know, because we still have room for a minor settlement. We get something like that, or a lesser settlement, I should say. So now we went from starting off with one, we start off with one settlement in nothingness, and then we populated around it, but then we ended up with this other thing. And we could probably also say, for similar reasons, at these extents, there would also be, they would also be these, so that we'd also have, maybe there's a river crossing, so we can kind of, I don't know how this would work up here. Something like that. So you end up with this little tiny network, a little bitty kind of network here. But I think that's kind of, I mean, I like it. We start off with creating these hub communities, and then we look at the terrain, and we look at how they can spread. And so we look at it and say, well, if it's less scarce, in other words, this idea of kind of moving towards the more fertile ground. If the scarcity of where they're moving to is lesser than where they came from, then or the same, they'll go. So the hill peoples are not going to move into the mountains because the mountains are more scarce, but they'll move down. Now these guys, if they're from the barrens, they'll go into any of this stuff because it's all better for them. In some cases, I suppose you could say that they're more, I don't know if you want to call it opportunistic or whatever. And again, you can break these rules, but these are rules just to get you going. But we start here, and we figure out this original area of, okay, here's where they could possibly actually get to. And then you look at those extents, and you look at it and say, okay, well, they can put other hub settlements. And then those hub settlements are these kind of sub-hub. I know there's a word I'm thinking more. In the hierarchy, here was their original one. Then they create these kind of sub communities, and then those sub communities can in turn, if they're next to stuff that would probably create conditions for them to become bigger settlements, they do that. And then we can again follow those same steps, say, okay, well, then those ones create smaller hubs. This one theoretically could also blow up into a bigger one. This one would not because it was, because there's nothing here. But then this one might, and then if we go into further regions, we might even get more, and so you can get these things kind of spreading. Now you might have more than one community on the map, and of course they can't, where they. I think I'd have a rule in here. They can't extend really past. There's probably some radius to which they won't be able to get to, and maybe we just have to limit how many child settlements they can have, so that, or I call them communities, how many child communities they can have to limit them, because I guess it's interesting, right? If you're in kind of your terrain like this where it's a lot of wild and tough terrain intermixed with some good terrain, then you get these great things. Here we have this wonderful. Let me. I guess we can redo there. If we were to redo this, we look at now what we would call, say, I don't know, this little kingdom or whatever we're gonna call it. What would we call it? I don't know. Let's go back to border. Yeah, we'll just do something like this. Oh my gosh, 35, 5, and we'll give it a bright yellow. So if we're going to look at now the sort of borders of this spot, we're going to get something like this. Obviously, I'm just the edges of the map are just the edges of what we're worried about, because they would definitely go beyond those edges. Something like this. All right, and there is our new little petty kingdom, and it's not huge because these are all 3-mile hexes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 36 square miles all told. So it's not a huge area. Well, no, not 36. Sorry, 36. No, sorry, that's wrong. Very wrong. So shoot, a 3-mile hex is, let's just call it 8 square miles. So 36 times 8, it's 288 square miles worth of land, more or less. And I'm just assuming that no one's going to claim swamps. It's probably a good, like, I think there are good things that are sort of borders, and these kind of woods and swamps. I mean, the lake could be one, but I imagine they might just claim the lake. I don't know. We don't know. They know what's on the other side, but they would some kind of lake border down the middle of the lake, whatever. About 288 square miles, a little bit less since I rounded up, but it doesn't really matter. Since all those things are really just supposed to be approximate anyway. So now you have this nice little, okay. And I feel like it makes sense. And I think we can, then do some interesting things. So let's just to wrap this, kind of put a bow in this particular discussion, we can do something like roll for, I don't know, we could roll for a couple of sites. Let's see. Where is the sites? Where is the sites? No, that's not it. No, that's not it. Nope. Let's see. Where is it? Did I close it? Hold on, I'm going to just drag it over here quick so I can open up bigger. Spreads. Nope, I don't. I don't have it open. Oh. No, I don't want to take a snipping tool shot. Thank you. Okay, let me grab it really quick. Where are we? Okay, here we go. Whoops. Pull this back over here. No, you don't need to be. No. Okay, now if we look at this, we've got, and I'm changing some of these numbers. I feel like it ends up being too many. So we say woods, peril. It's it was the overall region was woods, so peril is 2, and so I'm going to roll d6 times 2 for the amount. So I end up rolling this is why. So I'm going to just call it 7. So there's 7 sites, and we'll go ahead and I'm just going to we'll throw them in here, and we'll use I guess this star. We'll use these. So let's see, 7, 5, and 1. 1. Ooh, I might put a damper. 4 and 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. No, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 4 and 1. Well, there can't. I'm not going to. Well, I mean, I have rules for putting sites with thing, but I don't want to gunk up the works. So I'll just flip it around and say 1 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think that's probably enough, really. 3 and 1. 1, 2, 3. Interesting. All right, we'll just do that. So this is Betty. So we could do some interesting things with. Well, there's a few. So there's a bunch of things we could do. Just I'm not quite here yet in terms of what I'm ready. I've got sort of prep, but some ideas here just to, like I said, put a bow on it. As we can look and see, well, let's see. I know I got some. Let's get on the, yeah, we'll get on the selecting tool. Let's come back here. I think I have, oh, I should probably use magnitude here to be consistent. So we'll roll to see how big some of these are or small. We'll just go on top to bottom. So 6, it's big, so I'll leave it on that size. Next one is tiny, so it's small. Can I shrink it? I know there's a, small. Next one, 5. We'll do sort of medium. Like that. And then the last one is also, yep, same. It's small. Or medium, I should say. Okay. Oh, whoops. No, that one didn't stick. There we go. Small, medium, large. So now, if we want to create some borders around them, we can, so we won't use yellow, we'll use purple. So this one's medium. So we'll give it like this. Right. There's one. This one's going to be 2, so I guess it's going to be, yeah, it's going to be ginormous. It's going to go just for giggles here. Um, Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. And then this one here, it's just I'm not it's just this outline like there. And then this one has one whoops. And then we got one down here. All right, so now why am I drawing out all these things? So we can look at and say that if you're trying to figure out, so I actually have a thing to do annotations. I just always forget to turn it on. Hold on a minute. Let me just do that at the very end. Okay, here we go. There we go. If you're looking at information about this, can I make you a little bit bigger? How do I make your size up? There we go. If I'm trying to find information about this, see, they know. If there were things here, or they have rumor of this, right? They would know. This one, they would know, and then they would know. This small one here, it's isolated. So maybe it's, you could argue, I mean, it's on these kind of, you have overlap between here, so it's possible that these guys know, right? And these know, but because it's all within, right? This one is basically outside. I guess the ones that are outside this area, they would have it. This one's inside the kind of known area, so it would go here, and then information on this one could come here, and of course go here. So if you ever wanted to know, looking at your map over, well, who knows about what? Where could they possibly, assuming, let's say the party is trying to get to here, this is the goal. Who would know about this? Well, let me just let me clear this out. If the goal is like, we need to get here, and you want to know, well, who would know about that? Where could the information be? That will be here, and then that would also be here. They would both know because they're in sort of the radii overlap. So there is some zone for a site. It's probably not conflict, because my assumption with sites like, and those are the things like dungeons, things like that are kind of contained, that they're kind of keeping themselves to themselves. If you have something that you want to have more, that's more influential on the world around it in terms of actively doing things, like there's a dragon's lair, that's probably a community, a habitation of the dragon, and also a site if there's a dungeon attached to it. So, Horror on the Hill would be a couple of one habitation, maybe, if you wanted to, depending how you want to look at it, between the goblins that live on top and the dragon lives in the bottom, and then there's that they share a site. But that's how I would do it. Is I would say, okay, it's habitation and a site for a dungeon. If it's just a site, then it's your caves that things are spooky going on, but nobody's actually coming out from the caves, kind of thing, right? If these were different cultures, then wherever you'd find overlap, then that's where those conflict zones would be. So maybe we were to say that these two were not in the same culture, but they were different cultures, then this area in between, that would be a conflict zone. And if you're looking at things happening, battles, strife, stuff like that, these would be the hexes where those would be happening. So I think there's a lot we can do in looking at these sort of this gravity, this idea of, we have a site here. How far does that site reach out into the world around it? And which also means, and the other thing too is, okay, well, your party, your party starts here and they're kind of wandering around. They wander here, they wander here. They encounter, this is where you can have those kind of traces and things. Well, here they encounter something. That something is going to point them in some way kind of towards that. It doesn't have to point directly, like there's a road that leads from where you are to there. No, but you might find, I don't know if this is if there was a big battle here, and there's a barrows here, then maybe there was elements of old campsites or old fortifications, ruined walls, or things like that. Or it could be a road, or it could be a monument, or it could be something else. And there might be something over here. Maybe there used to be a little shrine, and there maybe was a little road that went over. And over here, maybe there was something. Right? Who knows? Who knows what it is? But there you find these kind of things that push back, lead you the sort of like gravity. They kind of sort of indicate that there's a thing, there's something here. And the more grand, the higher the magnitude of the thing, then the more those traces are going to spread out. So this one being it's a high magnitude, it's going to have traces going all, around like that. And therefore, and you could put some borders on it, like I said, I kind of like thinking of some of these things as having hard borders. So maybe these badlands are kind of separate, so they wouldn't be there. But these other areas, maybe even just, you can, here's where you can get into it, which is, the signs probably follow, oh, whoops, that's fine. They might follow least resistance. So here, this is in the woods. So here and here, maybe it wouldn't go up in the hills, but maybe you'd find it like this. So you would find traces here, here, and here. You could probably play around with this as much as you want, but that's if you want to get more complicated. If you want to keep it simple, then yeah, that's just everywhere around like that. So I'm kind of hoping that this will have you, that beyond the just using this stuff to generate your, or I should say populate a region of your hex map, that keeping this stuff in mind can actually be gameable beyond that. That you can look at these things and kind of quickly suss out, okay, using the lingo, all right, this is a lesser magnitude community, therefore it has, when you're looking at encounters, that's another thing, right? If you're thinking about, well, where might you encounter folks from here? And it's going to be, certainly in these areas because they're key, and then maybe, a little bit around, around like that. Something like that, right? So anyway, that's the idea. I'm still working through the details and then how to communicate that. But I like the kind of stuff it's generating and giving. Now it's just about honing in on the details. It doesn't have to be 100%, doesn't have to be ironclad. I just want it to make sense. I want to write it up, hopefully in a way that folks can read it and kind of get an idea about how to use it. And then, of course, ultimately, they can do whatever they want, use it however they want. But I at least want to be like, hey, can you read this and make sense of what I'm trying to say? And then if you want to take or leave what I'm trying to say, that's great. But that's there it is in broad strokes so far. Thanks for hanging out and just listening to me work through this nonsense. Yeah, I'm off for now. I will be back. Should be back on the morrow at some point. Other than that, have a great rest of your day, night, whenever you end up watching or listening to this. Game on, everybody, and I'll talk to you later. Bye now.